to uncover the truth about the case and represent it to as many people as possible. What is your prime intention? So I didn't hear back from him after that. But the emails raise a very important issue within journalism, which is the issue of not allowing a person to see what is going to be written about them. What currently happens is the journalist will cherry pick things that you say in an interview and then mix in their own opinions and twist the story and sometimes it gets represented incorrectly. I think my suggestion is a far better way to report things than is currently practiced, which is to completely separate what an interview states from any opinion the journalist may have about it. So if you want to get involved in spreading the word about the Madeleine McCann case, you can download the DVD image files free of charge, make your own DVDs and either give them out free or charge a reasonable fee to recover your costs. You can get boxed copies of the films from Richplanet website if you want, at a wholesale price of £6 each if you buy 10 copies. You can sell them for whatever price you think is reasonable. You can also order the display stand, or again, you can download the poster and make your own display stand. And like I said, I'm having a competition for the most imaginative place that someone is going to distribute the truth about Madeleine McCann. So send me your photographs, please, and I'll have a look at them. Now, from one disturbing subject to another, the Bridgend suicides. This is an alleged cluster of teenage suicides which have occurred or are occurring in the South Wales town of Bridgend. I have done some research and investigation into this, and in the next part of the show I will present my findings so far. I think we really need to question everything we are being told, including sometimes by coroners, because I personally believe that many of the teenage deaths in Bridgend were not in fact suicides. That's explained in the lecture. And I can also say that I believe, this is my belief, that the various theatre plays that have been staged in the area featuring suicide in the storyline have nothing to do with the cause of the suicides. It's my opinion that the plays are all part of the cover-up of the true causes of the suicides. In other words, the plays, in my opinion, are giving people a false lead to chase when trying to find out the truth about these mysterious deaths. So that follows in the next part. And please, anyone who is from the area, Bridgend or surrounding areas, that has got first-hand evidence or testimony or anything that you want to report to me to further my investigation, please get in touch. A very serious subject though, the Bridgend suicides. So obviously people in this audience will know of Bridgend, South Wales town, which in 2008, stories started to surface about young people under the age of sort of 17, 18, who were all committing suicide using the same method. They were strangling themselves. And it seemed to be in this small town. Well, it's not a small town, but they were from a small area, and the numbers seemed to be very, very high. So I've done a little bit of investigation into this. I did intend to bring out a film for this tour on this, but I'm not at that stage yet. But I'm going to show you what I found. It should be great interest to people in this area. Okay, the first thing I want to point out is just the name Bridgend. Right, I'm not making a dark joke here, but if you wrote down all of the names of the towns and cities in the UK and picked out the ones that were most synonymous with suicide, Bridgend will be top of the list. If you jump off a bridge, you come to your end. Now, I'm not stating this because I think people in Bridgend have committed suicide because the town's called Bridgend, but I am saying that it may have been picked for some macabre reason, and that will become clear in a second. Now, as you probably know, Bridgend is not a poor town. It's probably middle of the range in terms of affluence. There are a few poorer areas, but on the whole, it's not a poor town. And the families that have had these suicides occur, they're not problem families. They're not got drug or alcohol problems or any education problems. They're very, very stable teenagers who've committed suicide. Now, there are various theories, and I'm just going to run through them before I go through the evidence that I've found. The first is contagion, and this would be the official accepted theory, which is that young people are just getting ideas from the outside world and they're being influenced by them. So internet groups, People blame media coverage. They blame the fact that they may be in a cult or a pact with their friends. They're attention seeking, okay? Some people say, no, it's down to just drugs and alcohol problems. Some people say cultural influences. So apparently there's been theatre groups putting on plays about young people committing suicide in Cardiff and other places. So some people think that it's the influence from them. More sinister, perhaps, is the theory about microwaves. Now, I interviewed Barry Trower, who spoke all about the dangers of tetramasts and the police communication system, and he actually wrote to the Welsh Government warning them that if they continued to put these masts up, they would get increased suicides in young people. So we've got masts, and also microwave weapons is a possibility, because microwaves have been made into weapons, and Barry Trower speaks about that as well. So they're the various theories, all right? Now, when I started looking into this, I went to Bridgend a few times, and I was just passing the police station. So when you make a film, you've got to get shots of the various places, the high street, the police station. So I put my camera on the tripod, and I just standing there with my hands in my pockets, filming the police station, and a cop van came flying out, and they told me to get in the back of the van. Right, that was interesting. I was just taking some general views of the police station here in Bridgend, and the police came out, asked me to come in their van, asked me a load of questions. Who was I? Where did I live? Why was I filming the police station? They said, in view of the current terror situation, we've got to be really careful if someone's filming the police station. So they put my name in their computer, and they found out how many arrests I'd had, and they let me go. And I told them I was making a documentary about the Bridgend suicides, and one of them said, well, I said, you know, because there's a cluster here. And one of them said, well, they've just picked on Bridgend. All towns have a cluster of suicides. Bridgend's like any other. So he wasn't convinced that there was a cluster. Today's excitement over with. Okay, well, I thought it would be proper to find out if that police officer was correct and get the official statistics first. So I contacted the Office of National Statistics, and I got the suicide statistics between 2002 and 2014. So it tells you how many people have committed suicide in every county in the UK. The problem with that is that it doesn't tell you what the population of each county is, so you can't compare them. So I then got a copy of the population statistics of the same period, and I've made my own spreadsheet. So on this spreadsheet, you've got the county down the left-hand side, and the year along the top. So in each box, we've got the total number of suicides for that year in that county, the population, and a calculation there which gives you the number of suicides per 100,000 in that year. So that's how you measure the suicide rate. So I was then able to compare all of the different counties. Now, just to point out, this story started or broke in January 2008, and it was talking about suicides which had happened in 2007. So 2007 is the year it kind of kicked off. So what I've done, I've chosen 7 South Wales counties: Carmarthenshire, Swansea, Neath, Bridgend, Rhondda, Glamorgan and Cardiff, and I've put them on a graph to compare them. So we see here, this graph starts in 2007 and ends in 2014. The thick white line is the average. It's the average suicide for the whole of Wales. So the purple line here is Bridgend. Now, if we ignore this point here, because that's in 2011, it's not 2008 when the story broke. We see, okay, we have got a high figure there, but in 2008, it's lower than the average. 2009, it's much lower than the average. So I would say that this police officer had a point. According to the official statistics, the suicide rate in Bridgend isn't particularly higher than other counties. But these suicides are of young people, so they're under 20, right? This article from 2008 says, senior detectives are investigating 13 young suicides during the past year. So that's 13 in a year. This article says 17 in 13 months. So if we go by, let's say, 15 or 16 of young people in 1 year and compare that with the total. So the total number of suicides officially was 20. So if you've got 15 or 16 under the age of 20, that is a massive anomaly. The majority of the suicides were young people in 2007 in
in Bridgend. And if we look at this graph, this shows you the likelihood of somebody committing suicide according to their age. We see that the most likely age is in their early 40s, and it's very unlikely for people under the age of 19. That's the age group we're talking about, 15 to 19. So if the average is that low, we can state that if there's 15 or 16 suicides out of 20, then in that year, yes, there is an anomaly. There is something going on here. Now, I'm going to talk about a documentary in a moment, which includes comments from the Bridgend coroner, and these are genuine comments because he's there on the screen saying this. He said, "We did notice in 2007 that we had a very surprising increase in the number of young suicides, in particular over what we normally see. Hanging up until that time tended to be something that young men did. It was very unusual to see a female hang themselves or being involved in a hanging scenario. When we had those increased numbers, it was very noticeable that after a period of time, we were getting increasing numbers of women." Now, that is very unusual, and it suggests to me that they're possibly murders. If women don't normally hang themselves, why? That something's perhaps either been done to them or something else is at play here. Now, the method, they claim the method is always similar. So they will get a cord or even a coat. They'll anchor it to somewhere in their vicinity, like a banister or park bench, tie it around the neck, and then they will often just kneel and lean forward. It's a very simple sort of method. And they do not leave suicide notes, which again suggests to me that they might not be responsible. Okay, now I wasn't prepared to go knocking on doors of parents who'd had their children commit suicide, right? So I was happy to shelve my investigation, right? But I saw this documentary. Now, this is a documentary called Bridgend. It hasn't aired in the UK. It's made by an American guy called John Michael Williams. He came over to Wales for a couple of years. I think he was making this documentary in 2011, 2012, and he managed to meet and film many of the parents that have had their children commit suicide. Now, I think part of this documentary is available online on YouTube. I downloaded the whole thing. You can buy it for like 10 quid or something, but it's never aired in the UK, and it's done to a high standard. It's like a mainstream documentary. Now, I have become very suspicious of this documentary. Just to point out, there is another film called Bridgend about young people committing suicide, but that's a fictional thing, right? So don't get confused with that one. This is a documentary film by John Michael Williams that I have become rather suspicious of. Now, this is John Michael Williams here. He's a singer-songwriter. Here he is with Brooke Shields. He's got connections in Hollywood. He is a good singer. He's sort of like an opera sort of singer, but he's also a filmmaker as well. Now, this is what he says on his website about this film. "Through extensive research and investigation, and by literally knocking on doors, earning people's trust, and hiring private investigators, 2 were ex-Bridgend cops, I was able to uncover the identities of the victims and the true stories behind the deaths. I had the good fortune to meet 19-year-old Justin Beecham early on in my investigation, and we quickly became friends. I hired Justin to help me find the victims' families because I had discovered that the first 5 teens found hanged were all good friends of Justin's." Now, bear that in mind. I take it from that he's paid Justin Beecham to help him with this documentary. Now, here are a few quotes from the parents in this documentary. I'm not going to show them. It is quite harrowing to watch. But what this illustrates is that these parents had no idea that their child was going to do this. These are not problem children. Everything was going so brilliantly for him work-wise. He was in the frame of mind where you would never think of it. You wouldn't even think he would do it. There's no way on this earth there was anything to indicate that my son would go and kill himself. Everything was running normal. Nothing that we knew of that he had any problems or any worries. Nothing at all. If you heard her giggle, it was just so contagious that you'd laugh with her even if you weren't in the mood to. We knew that she wouldn't go down that farm. It's so far out of the way, so far out of character, that it just doesn't make sense to us. Kelly was absolutely bonkers. She was really, really outgoing. Everybody loved her, the life and soul of the party. She just loved life. She was just so bouncy. You know, she never walked into a room. She bounced into a room. And she had this absolutely dazzling smile that lit up the room, and she just made everybody laugh. So when you watch this documentary, you realize these parents, they haven't got a clue what's happened. Now, these are my opinions about this particular documentary. Firstly, the story about how it came to be made seems unlikely to me. Secondly, the film's executive producer stroke funder seems like an unlikely candidate to me. The film has not generated significant revenue. The film must have been heavily funded. The film promotes the contagion hypothesis. Williams, that's the filmmaker, he filmed thousands of hours of footage of the parents. He said this in a US radio interview that I've got. I suspect others who are not named may have funded the film. Now, here are the credits of the film. So this is the guy, John Michael Williams, who's the guy behind the camera who's made the film. The executive producer is Alan M. Darlow, MBE. Now, I bet there's got to be a few people in this audience know who Alan M. Darlow, MBE is. Huh? Anyone know who he is? State agency, yeah? You've all heard of Darlow's, yeah? Okay. So this is Alan Darlow, right? And in the year 2000, he owned Darlow's estate agency, right? But it went bust in 2000. So this is an article from the BBC website. So it says half of Darlow's 700 staff could lose their jobs, right? That's a big company, right? But it went bust. Now, despite that, he's still involved in other estate agencies. He's not involved in Darlow's now. He's got nothing to do with it, but it still carries his name. He's involved in other businesses, including property, and he's still a very, very wealthy man, despite his business going bust in 2000. Now, do your own research on Darlow, but here are a few comments that I found on him on the internet. This was in the comment section in a mainstream article. Darlow is a crook, always has been, always will be. Estate agent today should have done their homework. Alan Darlow is ruthless. I remember Darlow's. I think Big Al made a shed load of cash off Winterthur Life by going on a spending spree with their cash whilst renting offices to them that he owned. Didn't I read something on the front page of the Argos about a £31 million debt stroke bankruptcy? Okay, so I'm not personally casting any aspersions against him, but do your own research into the guy. To me, he doesn't seem like a likely candidate to put money into this and not get anything back from it. So the story about how this film got made is that Alan Darlow went to the US. He was on holiday in Palm Beach, and Williams just so happened to be staying in the same hotel, and the two get talking. And Williams tells Alan Darlow about his previous film, which is all about a pact of girls in the US who all got pregnant at the same time, right, and had their babies at the same time. So when Darlow hears this, he says to Williams, well, there's a pact in Bridgend near where I live, all these kids committing suicide. Maybe you should make a film about that. And then that got Williams' interest, and he's made the film, and Darlow put his own money into it. That's the story. Okay, now I mentioned Justin Beecham, and that he helped Williams, and he's featured quite heavily in this documentary, right? He helped two of his friends committed suicide in 2007. This film's made in 2011 and 2012. So the clips that you're about to see are from 2012. So I've taken out most of the clips that feature Justin Beecham, and I'm going to show you this. This is 9 minutes long. I've put some of my own comments on the screen. Listen carefully to what Williams is saying behind the camera to him as well, and just watch very closely what happens here.
This is the tree Tom hung himself on. There was another branch come off there, which he'd done it on. He hung himself on there. And that's the tree David Dillon hung himself on. They cut the branch off that one too. I think Tom hung himself there because David hung himself there. One person does it and another one thinks, oh, look at all the funeral, look at this, look at that, I'll do it. People are doing it because the first thing comes to their head, they get upset and they think, oh, how did everyone else get out of it? How did everyone else deal with it? And hang themselves, so they don't realise when you kill yourself, there's no coming back. There's no way it's not you're getting out of like one little argument, you're just ending your life really. Stupid thing to do. It's the first thing that comes to everyone's minds around there. So young, so bored, nothing to do. Argue with someone, it seems the easy way out and they go and do it. Get drunk and do it. Shitty thing.
Would you ever kill yourself?
No, I would never kill myself.
No, never, no. Not after what Tom's done. Never, ever. Because I wouldn't put my family through what Tom has put his family through and his mates.
I'd never kill myself either. I wouldn't like to do that to my family and my friends. I know how it felt and it weren't nice. Born on Friday the 13th, devil child. Everyone thinks anyway. I don't think I am.
You weren't. I was in a lot of pain after I had you, and you weren't even in the room. You was in the nursery, and I was still in pain. They voodooed you in the hospital.
They fed you devil blood.
Yeah, definitely.
Devil child.
Devil
People
child.
send me hate mail. Fucking devil. I have crucifixes in my house.
Oh, the devil over.
I don't know. Do you know, I done something on Facebook last night, yeah? It's like, who's haunting you and that sort of stuff.
God, yeah.
They reckon there's a lady who's anorexic here, and because she's so much, because she's so anorexic, upset with herself, she's slit her own throat, and she's buried under the house, and she's watching me, and she's unhappy what I'm doing. And if I go to the bathroom and record this 6:30 in the night, I'm going to see her slitting her own throat behind me, and I was like, sound. It's a nice thing to tell me, innit?
So, everyone, what do you guys think the reason is then for all these kids who have hanged themselves in the bridge end? What do you think?
Drink.
Yeah.
I think it's drink.
I think it's due to drink, drugs, boredom, nothing to do, nowhere to go. You know?
It's the first thing that comes to head, isn't it? When, like, say someone's hanging themselves, yeah, and they're a good friend of someone, as soon as they get drunk, they're upset about that person hanging themselves, and they're drunk, and it's the first thing that comes into their head, and they've just going through and do it, like... So many people have hung themselves, like, comes one hang, then two hanging, but it's like, if you want to kill yourself, if you go and do it a different way, you're not going to get as much, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, this person's hanged themselves, it's like, it comes in the papers, oh yeah, such and such killed themselves. It's not going to be like, oh yeah, he took an overdose. They would be like the rest of them hanged
But
themselves.
I think it's because it's quick.
Yeah.
But it isn't, though.
It's not painless, but it's quick.
Yeah, but you can hang,
but
you can
not
hang it for 20 minutes.
necessarily.
You can-
Yeah, but, you know, when you take pills, you've got to wait for yourself to fall asleep or whatever, you know?
Wanna
If
jump
you
from
cut
the
your
train.
wrist, it's going to hurt, innit? You know? So I think that when they've had a drink and that's just the easiest thing for them to do.
I don't think that.
I do.
I think they'd jump in front of a train, to be honest, if they don't want to feel no pain. So just demolish it, wouldn't it? I think it's because there's so many people that hang themselves.
Yeah.
It's like, why am I going to go and slip my wrist if all my mates have hung themselves? It's like, why were they going to leave a note and let everyone know why they've killed themselves? If they're doing it for the gang thing, they're doing it because everyone else is doing it. They want to be the same as them, don't they? They want to be mysterious and why they've done it, just like the rest of them. They don't want to leave a note and let everyone know why they've done it. They just want to leave it as a big mystery. Question mark, like, be like the rest of them, innit? They're going to join the gang, why do it differently? In the papers, they've said about 24 people.
Yeah,
I reckon it's at least around the 50 mark. People have hung themselves, like.
Yeah.
I think they wised up a bit because there's so many people hanging themselves, and they thought every time it goes in the paper, one kid looks at that and thinks, fucking hell, it's all over the front of the paper. Look at that. He's look how much fame that person's getting. Look at all the people talking about it, and that's playing in the back of the mind when they're thinking of hanging themselves. That's playing in the back of the mind. That's pushing them a bit further. I'm going to go and kill myself because. You're drunk. You're drunk. You've got no thoughts in your head at the starters. So how are you going to explain it? And sorry, mum, I'm going to kill myself because. And you've got no reason else to explain it apart from you've seen your friend hang himself and you're upset over it. It's not a good reason to take your life. They probably got no way of explaining them. I'm sure many of them wanted to because Tom said if he ever done it, he'd leave a note. But he probably got to that point in his life and thought, what am I going to say? How am I going to break it to my family? I've killed myself because I've got no reason. I'm just upset at the moment. Mel worried about me when the Tom hung himself. She ringing you and she to see if I was alright, like because she was worrying about me if I was going to do it. Well, my nan, she didn't help either. She used to come up here and she's gone in the air. So she used to tell me she was talking to Tom and saying Tom's going to come and speak to him in my sleep and that sort of stuff. And I was really upset. I couldn't handle even someone even saying his name, like. And she was sitting here and I was saying, she's like, oh yeah, he's going to come and see you in your sleep and. He said he had to do what he'd done and all that stuff, and it really upset me. I just burst out in tears. I was like, just get away now. Like,
No, I told
she
her
knew what she was
to
doing.
leave. I told her to leave. My mother's a bit of... She thinks she can talk to the dead and she thinks she's a white witch and all sorts.
She's got healing
You know, if it floats her boat, let her get on with it, you know. But that day she come in and I told her straight, you are upsetting him and there's no need for that. You know, you're not talking to Thomas at all. So stop trying to make him feel better because you're just making him feel worse.
Because of Thomas and because Justin had friends who have you ever worried about him doing it?
No.
You say, I've never worried about it.
I've never worried about Justin doing it, never. Because Justin, he's too strong-minded for that. He doesn't think about, you know, oh, if I take my life. He thinks about, you know, what I would go through if he took his life, you know, things like that. So, no, with Justin, no.
Okay, 3 weeks after that's filmed, he commits suicide with Hanger. After being asked so many times, would you commit suicide?
I never thought Justin would hang himself. He was totally against it. He was angry with his friends for doing it. Just never thought he'd do it at all. on the day Justin died. He wasn't acting right. He was acting strange.
Listen carefully to the house.
Like he was here, but he wasn't here. He went to the doctors as an emergency patient. He told the doctor that he was suicidal, that he wanted to kill himself. The doctor referred him to the hospital, but he had to wait for an appointment to come through. So he came home. Me and him had a little bit of an argument. He went out in his car. He came back, told me that he'd tried to hang himself and threw a, like a cardigan cord belt, threw that at me and said that he'd tried to do it, but it broke. Then he phoned an ambulance. Ambulance came, took him to hospital. Basically, they didn't have anyone there to deal with him, so they told him to come back Monday. I ask you, what sort of hospital doesn't help a child that's come in and told him that he's tried to kill himself and he wants to kill himself? What sort of place just sends them away with an appointment to come back 2 days later? He left the hospital, went to the police station, left the police station. Even the doctor in the police station, though, said that he shouldn't have been released because he wasn't acting right. Came home then must have been about 1 o'clock in the morning. I asked him if he was staying in, he said no. And he walked back out, and then his girlfriend come down and said that he'd gone to hang himself. So I got out of bed. I phoned the police. And they were looking for him over the road in the field. And I could hear him screaming his name. And then I heard him scream his name because they found him. And I could hear him saying, "Cut him down." They rushed him to an ambulance. Took him to Bridgend Hospital. And basically he was pronounced dead after like 20 minutes of being there. And it's even harder because I don't know why he did it. I get no answers. I've got no answers whatsoever. And I don't know why he did it. I can't think about it. I miss him so much. He was like my little ray of sunshine, you know. He always made me laugh, and I was so convinced that he would never do it. He used to say, "I could never do that to you, Mum. I'd never do that to you, Mum." I don't know what happened to him. Don't suppose I'll ever know, will I, until I get up there and ask him.
Now then, we've got evidence there. We can see him 3 weeks before, perfectly normal, and we've got the mother's testimony there. And if you listen to it carefully, she said he was acting strange, like he was here, but he wasn't here. But that acting strange must have lasted for quite some time, because he went to the doctors, he came back. He went to the hospital, he came back. He had an argument, he went out in his car, he then ended up at the police station, and then it wasn't until 1 o'clock in the morning when it supposedly happened. So you're talking over some period of a whole day, to me it seems like, that he's acting strange, he's there but he's not there. So he's in some sort of altered state of consciousness throughout an entire day. Now that clip that you've just seen, I insisted that Barry Trower, the government expert in microwaves and microwave weapons, watch that clip that you've just seen. I put the laptop on his knee and I said, "You need to watch this and I want your opinion on it as to the behavior of this young man." Right, so this is what I asked Barry Trower.
Do you think it's possible that they've tested weapons on the public? That's.
There are two answers here. If you're saying, have governments tested microwave weapons and other stealth weapons on the public? It is clearly yes. And they've been to court over this. If you're saying, could microwave weapons be responsible for this, or people testing out different frequencies or different things, the answer is yes. But this is where it gets a bit difficult, because there are, to my knowledge, 30, 40 different countries which test microwave weapons, and they tend to go into other people's countries to do it.
So for all, there's no way that you can say, well, I think it's highly likely or mediumly likely that that guy was acted on by a weapon. You're not saying that, but you're saying that you wouldn't rule that out as a possibility.
I would say it's very strong.
I would say it's very strong that that man was killed using a microwave weapon. This is one of the world's leading experts in microwaves and microwave weapons.
And the reason is that the new atomic bomb of this age is microwave warfare. I do know that from government documents, it is incredibly easy, and I won't go into too much detail. It is incredibly easy. It takes, on average, 30 hours to break a person down psychologically.
30 hours.
30
okay,
hours.
yeah.
Most people can be broken down into a hallucinogenic mess in 30 hours.
I've showed that at previous talks, and some people have said to me, well, can you spell it out, Richard? What are you saying could have happened? It's not very nice, but just consider it. She's explaining that Justin Beecham is in this fog for a whole day. Barry Trow is saying it takes 30 hours to break someone down. But how do they then go and commit suicide? Well, I don't know that, right? I don't know how it's then done. But if someone is using a weapon, you're not going to find them standing there with the weapon in their hand, right? You're not going to get that evidence. If you want to solve a crime, you have to look for clues. Now, let me just say one thing, though, about the method. I can describe the method in 8 words, right? Find cord, anchor neck, lean forward. 8 words as instruction. Now, I don't know whether it would involve some sort of hypnosis, making the person think that they're elsewhere, or whether it can just be done, whether they've got the technology now to be able to induce that with just microwaves. I don't know, okay? Now then, we come to Alan Darlow. Why would Alan Darlow put his own money into that film when he's not made any money back on it? So I found out where Alan Darlow lives. He lives in a great big house just north of Newport, and with its own grounds and everything. So I went to knock on his door because I wanted to ask him, why did you get interested in these suicides and what's your real motivation? So here's what happened. So I've arrived at Alan Darlow's house, and one of my fears is that there was going to be dogs. There's a few signs up here as well saying, beware guard dogs, dogs roaming free. So this is all his property here, inside this fence, and the prosecution of offenders. All right, so he's got guard dogs, he's got cameras. So 3 vehicles come out, and I spoke to one guy in a removals van, and I asked him if Alan was in. He said, oh, he's not here, but I can give you his mobile number. So I've got a mobile number that I can try him on, but I don't really fancy going past the main gates. I can hear dogs barking, and there's signs all over the fences saying, otherwise you can... Right, yeah. I think I'll ring his mobile. Okay. So I rang his mobile, and I had a 7-minute long conversation with him, which I've recorded. I'm not going to play it, but I will show you what was said. Now, let me just point out, I don't think Alan Darlow's got any knowledge of why these suicides may have occurred, and I don't think he's got any knowledge of microwaves or anything like that, right? That's not what I'm suggesting here. Now, I said to him, what was it that motivated you to get involved? He said, basically, it had been on in the press and we'd heard about it a lot, and I met John over in Palm Beach. And he was originally to know, but he'd just done a documentary called The Gloucester 17, which was a documentary about girls in Massachusetts High who'd all got pregnant at the same time. He came over to see me, and we were just talking. This is in Palm Beach when he's on holiday. And I said, I've got a good story for you from Bridgend where, you know, there'd been so many suicides, and then he started to research it, and Darlow's put his own money into it. So I then asked Alan Darlow, did you put money into it? He then said, yes, John and I financed it between us. There was no external finance. Now, if you've seen the Peter Hyatt video, right, when somebody states a negative, when they haven't been prompted at all for it, you're on high alert for deception, according to Peter Hyatt, okay? So I didn't ask him if there was any external finance. Did you put money into it? Why does he feel the need to tell me there was no external finance? When someone states a negative, when they're not prompted, it's possible that it's a lie. So I suspect that there has been external finance. Have you got your money back on it at all? He said, no, not yet, and he started laughing. He then said, I'd like to. I then asked him, did you know it wasn't going to make money, or did you expect to at least get something? He then said, I think we expected it to. I don't know what's happened in America, right? Now, as again, Peter Hyatt will say, when somebody stutters on the pronoun I 3 times, it's a sign of anxiety. It's a sign that he's not comfortable with that question he's been asked, right? And look at this sentence here. I think we expected it to make money. This is a ruthless businessman who puts money into things that are going to make money. I think we expected it to make money. So I don't know for sure, but my suspicion is that Darlow's just been used as a conduit to get money to get this film made, and that there's someone else behind it, probably the military. So, you've seen some evidence that I've presented for you. They're the theories, and this is the one that, the MP, Madeleine Moon, or whatever she's called, goes on about, oh, we can't report these cases in the media now because kids are copying off each other, right? I would say at the very least, if there's a discussion on what's caused these suicides, at the absolute very least, the subject of microwave weapons needs to be on the table. Okay? Those thousands of hours of footage that Williams filmed, I ask, is that being viewed at the Pentagon? Because what Barry Trower said is that they usually go into other people's countries to do these sort of tests. Well, we are another country to the US, aren't we? Yeah. Okay, it's a dark subject to finish part 1 on. We'll have a 15-minute break. Thanks for listening.
Now, over the summer, I have been making a film for Baron Blackett, the historian who works with Alan Wilson. Baron is currently writing a book about the origins of St. Patrick. He asked me if I would help him make a film about the subject, so I agreed. And in midsummer, I spent a week in Ireland filming for the documentary. Just to point out that I got involved with this to help Baron present his research. It's not something that is particularly close to my heart, i.e. how Catholicism or Christianity was spread throughout Ireland, and the argument about exactly where St. Patrick originates from. I'm not making the film because I support organised religion. Don't want anyone to get that wrong idea. One of the plus points for me in making the film was to be able to test out my new drone over some very interesting countryside in Ireland. So if you're interested in that sort of subject, the film will be out next year. Whilst in Ireland, I stopped off to look at an ancient site which is much older than anything connected to St. Patrick. It's the 21st of June 2017 and the sun is just about to set, so it's midsummer solstice. And I'm in Ireland. I'm in Southern Ireland. I'm doing a bit of filming for Wilson and Blackett for a film all about St. Patrick and St. Patrick's origins, where they claim St. Patrick originated from in Wales. So I'm filming for the documentary, and I just thought I would stop off at this particular site called Browns Hill. This is not linked to St. Patrick, this is obviously much earlier, but it's a piece of archaeology called a dolmen, D-O-L-M-E-N, one of these megaliths where you have one massive stone balanced on other stones, and there's lots of them in Wales and Ireland and other places. So this was on my way, so I just thought I would come and have a look at it. It looks like there's a group of people heading towards it now. Maybe they're there for the solstice, who knows. Apparently it's 150 tons. How much can one man lift? No, 1/10 of a ton? How many people would it take to lift that? How did they get that on there then, eh? The size of this. According to the little plaque here, it says that it was built to be sloping, i.e. one side of it on the ground like it is. But it doesn't look like that to me. It looks to me like the back end has fallen over at one point, because there's other candidate stones that may have been lifting the back end up. What's that stone for then? What's this stone for? Looks like the other ones. Looks like another leg to me, and there's other ones lying down as well. This one here, for example. That one. And what's this? Why is it? This looks like it's been cut here. So was that for some stone to lock into, perhaps? So I don't think it was meant to be sloping like that. Well, I think it was maybe meant to be sloping, but I think it was propped up at the back. It does look as though some of the stones may have been worked at some point, but I would say a very long time ago, because there does seem to be bits cut out of them. You see here, that's definitely been cut, and also here looks like it's been cut. What the purpose of that is, I don't know. And down here, I would say that's been cut. I don't believe that they're burial chambers. I don't believe they're honouring the dead. I don't believe it was a pulpit for preaching on.